are young, we can see, we are fighting to be free in America. In America, we are handsome and we are brave, we are dying to be saved, and we're not gonna stop when the bombs fall, no, never gonna stall. Now we are young, we are young, yeah.
We are in the midst of a violence epidemic, but it did not just start recently. This is our culture, is a culture of violence, and for us, violence is entertainment, and it starts when we're little kids. You can go to the store now and buy Marine reconnaissance figures. They come in Caucasian and African American versions, so people of two races can identify with being a Marine. And that's fine if you want to play with those toys, as long as it comes with the destroyed apartment building and people trying to pull their family members from the rubble once the airstrikes are called in. Another alternative for your children, toy grenade launchers. They come with stainless steel handcuffs, grenades sold separately. Now that would be fine if you want to show your kid what how to play with a grenade launcher, but just include the decapitated 4-year-old and the mother weeping over her child's body. Let's be honest about what these are in reality. As our kids get a little bit older, they'll start playing video games. And this is a very insidious way for the U.S. military to begin training your children to serve in their war machine. It works on the hand-eye coordination, which helps soldiers operate their weapons, or to man a computer to operate a drone thousands of miles away. But you start out playing games like Desert Storm, or Rainbow Six, or Call of Duty, which helps you develop that hand-eye coordination, and also begins training you to dehumanize the enemy. Killing is what gets you to winning, and in this country, we're all about winning at any cost. Let us also remember the video game Doom, which was a favorite of Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, who committed the massacre at Columbine High School in 1999. Harris said, what the game shows is a U.S. Marine killing people with a shotgun. And what Harris's journal showed was that he said, my shotgun is straight out of the game. As our kids get older, they'll watch television. They'll watch shows like 24 and The Unit, which clarifies what our world is supposed to look like to our kids. It'll be good guys versus bad guys. Us versus them. It'll be special forces and counterterrorism who are the good guys, who are killing Arabs and Muslims, who are all bad. And then those messages will get reinforced in the movies. From back in the 1980s, you had Delta Force and Top Gun glorifying killing the enemy. And today you have Act of Valor, which is a movie like many Hollywood movies which are made in conjunction with the Department of Defense. Because this is another recruiting tool for the Pentagon. And what does it teach our children? It teaches them that heroism comes through killing. And defining yourself as a man comes through killing. And that is not the message that is accurate for a peaceful and justice-filled world. This is not the reality. If you want to show the attacks of the U.S. military, then show the truth, that 90% of the casualties of modern warfare are unarmed men, women, and children. 90%. When you sign up to carry that M16 overseas, you're not serving your country, you're not defending our freedoms, you're killing unarmed men, women, and children so that a handful of people can fill their wallets and make more profits. With that. 77 years ago, General Smedley Butler, one of the highest decorated Marines in the history of the U.S. military, told us, war is a racket. It always has been. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives. So, when we hear from our anti-war veterans humanity, not for their service. 1.5 million Iraqis are dead. What do you want me to thank you for? I thank you for reclaiming your humanity and standing here for today for a just world. There is a better way. In our occupations overseas, just in modern times, I can't list all of them for the last century because we'd be here until 7 p.m. But in our occupations today, in the global war on terror, specifically Iraq, Afghanistan, and Palestine, millions are suffering. We see the pain of the returning veterans, okay? Families, millions of men, women, and children are carrying the same scars, and they had no choice in what we unleashed upon them. And as was quoted earlier by Dr. Norman Horn, who was quoting the Bible, whatever a man soweth, so shall he reap. We have brought death and destruction overseas, and it is coming home now. If you follow what is happening with the police forces in this country, they are now being trained by the Israeli military. Have you seen the oppression and violence that the Israeli so-called defense forces have brought to the occupied territories of Palestine? Those forces are Israeli offensive forces in every sense of the word. And they are training police in the United States, across the United States, in crowd control. Turn on the news and watch how the Palestinians are suffering. That occupation is coming here at home. And if this continues unchecked, which is why today is so important, we will be living under a military occupation. There are very strong ties in this country between the National Guard, the U.S. military, and law enforcement. And so it's a very smooth, fluid channel flowing between these various groups. So this is what we are up against. So what is our option? The same option that has been used since the establishment of this country and has been ongoing today: civil disobedience. When governments do the wrong thing, it's up to us, the people, to do the right thing. We saw this in the last 15 years or so with the International Solidarity Movement, which is Westerners going to the occupied territories of Palestine to stand in civil disobedience to defend international law and humanitarian law. I just want to make a brief note of someone who's been my guide as an activist, Rachel Corrie, who was, thank you. Please read more about her, and I'll talk about her in my book, but she literally went overseas and stood up for what she believed in. And because of that, her life was taken from her, crushed by a bulldozer. It is because of her courage that I am able to stand here before you today, and actually because of the courage of all of you. So thank you, Rachel. Thanks to all of you. We have seen the courage of the freedom flotillas, ordinary yet extraordinary people. When they see their governments reinforcing what is illegal and unjust, they take matters into their own hands, seeking to break the siege of Gaza. Anybody here with Texans for accountable government? We've got tags, seeking to hold the government accountable to what is right and what is just. We got the Occupy movement, and this is a very exciting development. Let's see what this spring and summer brings forward as people stand up and say, enough is enough. Yeah. And we are so lucky today, I am so lucky today, for Taylor Medding and Austin Alliance for Peace for holding this rally and rejuvenating and re-inspiring all of us. Let us remember the words of the late historian Howard Zinn. Historically, the most terrible things, war, genocide, slavery, have resulted not from disobedience, but from obedience. And so I want to conclude with the story of American naval officer John Paul Jones during the American Revolutionary War, which I do believe was the last war fought for freedom in this country. Jones led his ships into British waters, very bold, attacking and capturing British vessels. On September 23rd, 1779, Jones led his command against the 44-gun Royal Navy frigate Serapis. He and his crew were struggling, and with their ship in flames and sinking, the British demanded Jones's surrender. As the story goes, he replied, "I have not yet begun to fight." More than 3 hours later, the Serapis surrendered. The British turned their command over to Jones. We are in difficult times, but don't give up, and don't think your voice or your actions are insignificant, not any one of us. From the 90-year-old raging grannies to my 9-year-old sister in the struggle, Lily, we're all here and we can all make a difference. So I offer you this anonymous quote: "Anyone who thinks that they are too small to make a difference has obviously never been in bed with a mosquito." My fellow mosquitoes, we have not yet begun to bite. Thank you all so much.
I was the first one in my family to graduate high school and go to college. I went to West Point. After I got out of West Point, I became an airborne ranger. I went to Germany. I served over there. I did a tour in Kosovo. I did a tour in Iraq. In Iraq, I ended up taking on jobs that I shouldn't have taken on since I was so junior. A lot of good things happened to me over there. Fortunately, I never had to kill anyone. A lot of good things happened to me while I was in the military from a professional standpoint, and that propelled me into Stanford Business School, and that opened up the opportunity to go to Wall Street and make a ton of money and then do a private equity fund. And looking at my life, I was pretty happy, even though by this point I had come to become anti-war and realized that there were a lot of issues in society. But I came down to Austin about 15 months ago because I wanted to live a freer life. I wanted to be surrounded by people like you who believe in liberty and don't believe in violence and aggression, don't believe in killing. But on January 1st this year, I found that even if you have a background with no problems, if you've done all the right things, it doesn't matter when you come across a corrupt person with a badge and a gun. There's good cops out there and there's bad cops out there, but there's a lot of bad cops out there, and they destroy the lives of a lot of people here in Austin, Texas, and around the country. In particular, I was driving home on New Year's Eve. I stopped to get gas with a friend. We saw two cops violently pulling and yanking a girl out of the car, throwing her to the ground, and manhandling her. We decided to ask questions and take pictures. For that, a cop named Patrick Aporsky assaulted me, came after me, arrested me, falsely charged me with a crime that I did not commit, spitting in his face, that carries a 2 to 10 year penalty. So I was sitting in jail on January 1st, and I just had a question to myself, is this what we fought for? They always talk about, we're fighting for freedoms and liberty over there. Well, is this what we fought for? Did we fight for the NDAA? Did we fight for the Patriot Act? Did we fight for these massive entitlements to corporations and to the military-industrial complex that takes money from all of us, the working people of America? No, of course not. So, like I said, I'd already become anti-war at this time, but I realized we weren't fighting for democracy. There's nothing, there's no democracy being pushed in Libya or Afghanistan or Iraq. In fact, the tyrants that we are supporting now are just as bad or worse than the tyrants that we displaced. And the tyrants that we displaced, like Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, we funded in the 1980s. That's how stupid our foreign policy is. And so how does society get to this point? How about terrorism? We always talk about terrorism, and we're afraid of brown people overseas, right? We're conditioned to believe that they're going to come over here and implement Sharia law, as if we have any law to be proud about. We destroy our own laws. What is terrorism? Terrorism is when we drone children in Pakistan. Terrorism is when we kick indoors in Iraq or Afghanistan at 3 in the morning, and as one of the fine veterans with a conscience said the other day, you end up killing them because they had an attitude problem. Innocent person who never did anything wrong, his land's being occupied, and he gets killed because he gave a 20-year-old kid who's high on adrenaline an attitude problem at 3 o'clock at night because they're roughing up his wife or his daughter. So it's a shame. So you know, how do we get to this point in society where we support wars abroad and we overlook the fact that cops are abusing us domestically? Well, I think it's because they try to create division amongst us. You know, it's all about Muslims versus Americans, or Muslims versus Christians, us versus them, Democrats versus Republicans, the cops versus the people, and it gets us nowhere. Overseas, it gets a bunch of our soldiers killed and over 1.5 million foreigners killed over the past 20 years. Most of them civilians, most of them who've never had any intention of hurting a single American, with the exception of maybe the American who's sticking a gun in the face of one of their family members. Okay, here at home, what do we get? We get hatred between the cops and the people. You know, the cops in this town alone have killed something like 20 people in the last 2 decades. A good half of them were shot in the back or were unarmed. You know, and there's no justification for that. And then, sadly, we sadly had our first officer killed in decades, you know, by someone else, Officer Padron, and it's terrible, and everyone should be appalled by it. But all it has done now is it's deepened the division. They go out there and they slander Debbie Russell for asking questions about policy that could save the life of future officers and save the life of civilians. But now they're just trying to deepen this gulf between us. And the blacks and Hispanics, everyone on the east side of 35, they're scared to death. They don't know what to do. You know, so we have to find a way to get past our differences. And I think this is a great start right here. We have people all across the political spectrum. We have, you know, obviously libertarians, socialists, real pro-life conservatives, real anti-war progressives, and this is how it has to be, and this is how we solve the problem overseas with our foreign policy, and how we solve the problems here at home. So we all talk, a lot of us sit here and complain. We just make complaints. You know, the system sucks, the people suck, but we don't organize and do stuff. And I love the fact that everyone's out here because they're actually doing something for a change. You know, with war, we have to exude the anti-war sentiment. We have to come back out here like we're doing today. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, everyone who set this up. But we have to push the anti-war message, the pro-peace message. We need to become peacemongers. We need to protest. We need to protest like it's 1969 again. Or at least 2006. All right. We need to call people out who say that they're anti-war, but then they say, oh, no, but it's different. I support this warmonger because he's pro-choice or because he promotes healthcare. Guess what? If you are pro-choice and you promote healthcare, you'll have a candidate who's anti-war to vote for. You know, there's going to be someone out there. You don't have to support Obama. Same thing with anyone who's thinking about supporting Romney or Gingrich, warmongers. Okay, and stop supporting the parties. Both parties are controlled by war pigs. You can support maybe an individual in the party if they go against their party, like Kucinich or Ron Paul. But remember, they will never get the support of the establishment, and it's going to be a lonely road, but all you guys have integrity, and that's what it takes. All right. And finally, to oppose the wars, we need to support the people in the military who are opposing the wars. The conscientious objectors, the ones out there who are standing up. The Bradley Mannings. Bradley Manning is an American hero. Everyone in America should know who Bradley Manning is. We need to get that out there. People don't know who Bradley Manning is. It's disgusting. So, now come back home, because there's tyranny abroad. Our tax dollars are paying for the killing of civilians in 6 countries, but our tax dollars are paying for the killing of civilians right here at home as well. Okay, first thing we have to do is reject the notion that cops are heroes because they're cops. It's not true. Cops who uphold their oath, and they protect the rights of the people, and they put their personal safety beneath your life and your liberties. They are heroes. Cops in their ranks, they are heroes. Cops like Aborski and Snyder, who assault women, like Kirkpatrick, who assault homeless men, break their arms, like Wagner, who shoots people in the back of the head, like Mistrick, who stalks women, young mothers. They are not heroes, and do not for a second allow anyone to tell you that you need to respect cops because they're cops. You respect people who respect your rights and liberties and stand up for them. I was lucky that night. First off, I have my background, which I gave you, which gives me considerable consideration amongst people who don't realize that police abuse is a problem. Okay? I wasn't drinking that night. I was a designated driver. I wasn't in the car that got pulled over. I was an observant. I just came upon the scene. Okay? And I did nothing wrong. Yet they were still going to throw me in 2 to 10 years in prison because of contempt of cop, because I gave a cop an attitude, apparently. Okay? Fortunately, we had heroes there that night who didn't step forward as witnesses. One of which took video of the incident, and that video now has been seen by almost 100,000 people on YouTube. There's all of the videos, nearly 220,000 views on YouTube all told. And I'm lucky, I'm one of the people who's going to beat this. But I talked to a gentleman a week ago who spent 2 years in prison for spitting on a cop. He never spit on a cop. His crime was that he got assaulted by cops, and they had to cover up their crime, so they said he spit on them, and he ended up spending 2 years in prison. He was Hispanic, and he wasn't living in Northwest Austin. That's the problem. So, you know, what are we going to do about this here? Besides calling out the criminal elements of the police force, we're going to organize, just like we organized for this anti-war rally. We have a project right now called the Peaceful Streets Project. It's coming to you soon. May 12th, we have community training in East Austin. We're working with the community. We're going to educate people on their rights, how to video cops, how to interact with cops so they can protect themselves. And on June 2nd, we're going to have a conference, and we're going to invite the absent Lee Leffingwell, who is apparently the mayor of this city. We're going to invite the city council, who doesn't ever crack down on police abuse. We're going to invite Art Acevedo, the police chief, who just decided to make a big production out of Officer Padron's death in a way that was completely disrespectful to Padron. But it was meant to build up the gulf between us and the cops. But we're going to do it. We're going to bring blacks, whites, Hispanics together. We're going to bring the east side together, the west side together, just like we're doing with the anti-war movement. We're going to put the rights and the liberties of the people first. Thank you very much.
We are dying to be free in America. Yes, in America. We are handsome and we are brave. We are fighting to be safe. And we're not gonna stop when the bombs fall. No,